I spent the last 7 days eating only fermented foods, sauerkraut, kimchi, kefir, miso, the works, and by day 4, something happened to my digestion I did not expect at 60. No supplements. No powders. No shortcuts. Just real fermented food, 3 times a day, for a full week. And what happened to my energy, my bloating, and even my mental clarity surprised me enough that I had to share every detail with you. If you're over 60 and dealing with digestion that feels unpredictable, afternoon energy crashes, or that foggy feeling that makes it hard to focus by 3 p.m., stay with me, because this experiment might explain more than you think. And stick around until the end, because day 4 is where everything changed, and I don't want you to miss it. Doctors have been saying for years that gut health and overall health are deeply connected, especially after 60, when digestion naturally slows down and the balance of bacteria in your gut shifts. Here's something a lot of people don't realize. Your gut is home to trillions of bacteria, and that community, your gut microbiome, changes composition as you age. Beneficial bacteria that helped you digest food easily in your 30s and 40s become less abundant. That shift can show up as bloating, irregular digestion, and even changes in energy and mood. Fermented foods are rich in live probiotics, the beneficial bacteria that support digestion. Foods like sauerkraut, kimchi, kefir, and miso have been eaten for centuries across different cultures. But I wanted to know, does eating them consistently, every single day, actually change how you feel? Not in theory. In real life, in my own body, over 1 week. So I set myself a simple rule: for 7 days, every meal had to include at least 1 fermented food. Sauerkraut, kimchi, plain kefir, miso soup, fermented pickles. No exceptions, no skipping, no, I'll catch up tomorrow. I tracked 3 things every single day, at the same time, so the comparison would actually mean something: my energy levels, especially that mid-afternoon slump between 2 and 4 p.m., my digestion and bloating, particularly after meals, my mental clarity, whether that brain fog, feeling lifted or got worse. I want to be upfront. This is one person's experience over 1 week, not a clinical study. But there's real value in seeing what actually happens, day by day, instead of just reading a list of benefits online. Let's go day by day. Day 1 was easy, honestly. I had plain kefir with breakfast, a small side of sauerkraut with lunch, and miso soup with dinner. Nothing dramatic happened. My stomach felt a little unusual, not bad, just aware, like it was adjusting to something new. I'll be honest about something else too: the taste took getting used to. Fermented foods are sour, salty, sometimes sharp. If you're used to a milder diet, your first bite of kimchi or sauerkraut can be a bit of a shock. I mixed the sauerkraut into a salad to ease into it rather than eating it plain. By evening, I did notice something small. I didn't get that usual heavy, sluggish feeling after dinner, the one where you just want to sit down and not move for an hour. It was subtle, but I wrote it down anyway, because these experiments only work if you're honest about the small stuff too. Energy-wise, nothing had changed yet. My afternoon slump hit right on schedule, around 3 p.m., same as always. That's an important detail. Nothing happens overnight, and if you try something like this yourself, don't expect day 1 to feel transformative. This is where it got real. By day 2, I was craving something else entirely: bread, something sweet, anything that wasn't sour or salty. Fermented foods have a strong flavor profile, and eating them meal after meal isn't always pleasant. I'm not going to pretend otherwise. I also noticed something I wasn't expecting: mild bloating. Not the same kind I usually get, but a different, gassier feeling, especially after lunch. For a moment I actually thought, is this making things worse instead of better? Day 3 was the hardest. I had a moment standing in my kitchen looking at a jar of kimchi thinking, I really don't want this right now. I stuck with it anyway, mixing the kimchi into rice and the sauerkraut into soup to make it easier to get through. Here's the thing doctors point to. This early discomfort is actually common when you increase fermented food intake, because your gut bacteria are shifting and adjusting to a new supply of live cultures, often described as your gut recalibrating. So if you ever try something like this yourself, don't panic if days 2 and 3 feel worse before they feel better. That's the most important thing I wish someone had told me before starting, because I nearly convinced myself to quit right at the point where things were about to turn around. Day 4 is when things started to shift, and it happened faster than I expected. My digestion, which had felt inconsistent for months, started to feel more regular, more predictable. I wasn't dealing with that uncomfortable bloated feeling after meals anymore, and the gassy feeling from days 2 and 3 had mostly disappeared too. Think of fermented foods like a cleaning crew for your gut, introducing beneficial bacteria that help break down food more efficiently, which can reduce the bloating and discomfort a lot of people over 60 experience after eating. By day 4, that cleaning crew seemed to have settled in and gotten to work. I also noticed my afternoon energy slump, the one where I usually need to lie down around 3 p.m., didn't hit as hard. I wasn't wired or hyper, just steady. That was new. I remember sitting at my desk around 3:30, the exact time I'd normally start fading, and realizing I hadn't even thought about needing a break. There's a theory behind this worth mentioning. Some researchers believe that when digestion is working more efficiently, the body spends less energy processing food, which can leave more available for things like focus and alertness. I want to be careful here. That's a simplified way of explaining it, and I'm not a doctor, so I'll just tell you what I noticed rather than making bigger claims than the science supports. What I can say for certain is this: day 4 was the first day the experiment stopped feeling like a chore and started feeling like something my body was actually responding to. By days 5 and 6, the cravings for other food had mostly faded. My body had adjusted, and I actually started looking forward to my miso soup in the evening, something I did not expect going into this at all. What started as an obligation had turned into something I was mildly enjoying, which honestly surprised me more than any of the physical changes. Digestion continued to feel more regular through both days, no bloating, no discomfort, no unpredictability. And there was one more thing I hadn't been tracking closely, but noticed anyway: mental clarity. That mid-afternoon fog, the kind where you forget why you walked into a room, or lose your train of thought mid-sentence, felt lighter. Not gone completely, but noticeably reduced. On day 5, I had a phone call with a friend in the late afternoon, usually my foggiest time of day, and I noticed I was following the conversation more easily than usual. This connects to something researchers call the gut-brain axis, the idea that your gut and brain are in constant communication through a network of nerves and chemical signals, and that gut bacteria may influence things like mood and mental clarity. It's a growing area of research, and scientists are still working to understand exactly how strong that connection is. I'm not a doctor, so I won't make big claims here, but I can tell you what I felt: clearer, calmer afternoons, 2 days in a row. Day 6 continued much the same way: steady energy, regular digestion, and a noticeable lift in that foggy afternoon feeling. At this point, I was genuinely curious what day 7 would show. On the final day, I sat down with a notebook and compared how I felt to day 1, point by point. Energy levels. My mid-afternoon slump, the one I used to fight every single day around 2 to 4 p.m., was noticeably less intense by the end of the week. I wasn't reaching for coffee or lying down out of exhaustion. I still had quieter moments in the afternoon, that's natural, but the heavy, I need to stop everything, kind of fatigue had eased considerably. Digestion and bloating. This was the biggest change, hands down. The uncomfortable, heavy, bloated feeling after meals that had become so normal for me that I'd stopped even mentioning it to anyone, was almost completely gone by the end of the week. Meals felt lighter. I wasn't loosening my waistband after dinner the way I used to. Mental clarity, the brain fog that used to hit hardest in the afternoons, was noticeably lighter by day 7. I felt more present, more focused, especially during conversations later in the day, the exact time I used to feel like I was operating at half capacity. Was it dramatic, overnight, transform your life in a week, kind of change? No, and I want to be honest about that. But it was real, it was consistent, and it built up day by day in a way that felt sustainable, not like a crash diet or an extreme cleanse where you feel worse the whole time and better only when it's over. This felt like the opposite, harder at the start, easier and better by the end. If I had to summarize the whole week in one sentence, it would be this: the discomfort was front-loaded, and the benefits were back-loaded. Days 2 and 3 were the cost. Days 5, 6, and 7 were the payoff. If you're over 60 and dealing with unpredictable digestion, afternoon energy crashes, or that foggy, forgetful feeling by mid-afternoon, this experiment suggests fermented foods may be worth exploring, not as a miracle cure, but as one piece of a bigger picture. You don't need to overhaul your whole diet overnight like I did for this experiment. In fact, I'd actually recommend against jumping in as aggressively as I did. Even adding one fermented food a day, a spoonful of sauerkraut, a small glass of kefir, a bowl of miso soup, could be a gentle place to start, and it's a much easier way to see how your body responds without the days 2 and 3 struggle I went through. And if you do try it, expect days 2 and 3 to feel a little uncomfortable before things settle. That's normal. Don't give up right before the turn, like I almost did. It's worth pointing out that fermented foods aren't some new wellness trend, they've been part of traditional diets for thousands of years. Sauerkraut in Eastern Europe, kimchi in Korea, miso in Japan, kefir from the Caucasus Mountains. Different cultures, no communication between them, all independently discovered that fermenting food made it easier to preserve and, in many cases, easier to digest. Modern research is now starting to explain why, by identifying the bacterial strains involved and how they interact with our digestive systems. Let me answer a few questions I imagine some of you are already thinking. Which fermented food should I start with? Kefir is usually the gentlest starting point, easy to add to a smoothie or drink on its own. Sauerkraut and kimchi have stronger flavors and can be more intense to start with. What if I'm on medication? This matters. If you're on blood thinners or medication affecting your immune system, talk to your doctor before making changes like this, since fermented foods can interact with certain medications. Do I need to eat this much every day forever? No, this experiment was intentionally extreme to see what a full week of consistency would do. For daily life, 3 to 4 servings a week seems to be enough for many people to notice some benefit over time. Is store-bought the same as homemade? Not always. A lot of store-bought sauerkraut and pickles are pasteurized, which kills off the live bacteria, meaning you lose the probiotic benefit. Look for raw, unpasteurized, or contains live cultures on the label. Can I get too much of a good thing? Yes, potentially. Miso, kimchi, and pickles are high in sodium. If you're managing blood pressure, that's worth watching and worth discussing with your doctor. Looking back at this whole week, what stands out to me most is how much the first few uncomfortable days almost stopped me from seeing the payoff at the end. That's true of a lot of things related to health after 60. The beginning is often the hardest part, and the results come later than you'd like. So many of us try something for 2 or 3 days, decide it's not working, and give up right before things would have started to shift. This is exactly the kind of practical, real-world information I share every week on this channel. No gimmicks, no miracle cures, just honest experiments and real research explained simply for people over 60. If you want a deeper, structured guide to eating for healthy aging, including foods that support digestion, energy, and mental clarity, laid out so you don't have to piece it together yourself, I put together an ebook called Foods That Support Healthy Aging After 60. The link is right there in the description below. If this video helped you, hit subscribe so you don't miss next week's video, and drop a comment below. What's one food or habit you'd want me to test next? I read every comment and I'm always looking for the next experiment. Medical disclaimer, spoken, this video is for informational purposes only and isn't medical advice. Please talk to your doctor before making significant changes to your diet, especially if you have existing health conditions or take medication.